Okay, this is the video to show you how to use the fluorometer for the ammonium measurement. You have to turn on the instrument with the switch that is located at the back of the instrument on the left side. You will see a 600-second countdown. This is just to let the instrument and the lamp warm up before you take any measurement, otherwise your data can drift. If for some reasons you have to turn off, or you did turn off the instrument while doing your measurements, you thought you were done, but you realize that you still have one tube left to read, then you can turn on the instrument and skip the countdown by pressing escape. Your lamp is already warm enough to do the measurement, so you don't have to go through that again. But just make sure that you have read all your samples before turning it off. So this is the cuvette holder. There's an arrow on the left side. It needs to point on the left side of the instrument towards that white dot. So place it properly. There are two metal pins on the sides of the cuvette holder, and they need to be seated properly in their slots. So these are this is where the light comes in, and the other window is where the light comes out to the photocell. If you see like minus 25 to minus 30 values, that's probably because your cuvette holder is not placed properly. So we work with glass cuvettes with rubber caps now. Rinse them with milky water before you go to the rosette, especially if they have been sitting there for a while. They accumulate ammonium over time from the air. So just fill them up with a little bit of milky, you put the cap on, you shake, and then you discard the water. Tube 1 to 8 are the tubes for the calibration curve, 8 being the one with the higher concentration. Tubes from the second row are for the matrix effect, and all the other tubes are your samples. So for the matrix effect, we normally do surface 30 meters or chlorophyll maximum and 100 meters. So you take 2 tubes per depth. If you only take surface water, then you don't have to do the chlorophyll maximum or 100 meter depths. So we need to set the instrument now. You're gonna click on enter first, then you see the calibration and you press number 2. Then you insert the tube from your calibration curve that has the highest concentration. In this case, that's number 8. I use Kim wipes with some milky water just to damp them a little bit, because when you're going to the rosette, sometimes you have some salts residues on the tube, so I want to take care of it and remove them. So wipe it with a damp cloth and you're good to go. Place it in the cuvette holder. If your cuvettes have a mark, a distinctive mark on them, you can try to always have them in the same position every single time. But if they don't, well, don't do it. So just follow the instruction by the instrument, you press enter, and then you can set the value for your sample with the highest concentration. In this case, it's 800. The machine can give you a value of 999. So by setting it at 800, it gives you a little bit of headroom, just in case one of your samples would have a higher concentration than your tube number 8 concentration. If for some reason you end up with a sample with a concentration that is way above and you get an over value, I suggest that you change the 800 value to 400 value, redo the calibration curve and blank correction, and reread everything with that setting. That way you're going to be able to read higher concentration samples. So now we click on number 1 for OK. The fluorometer will adjust itself, and then we're gonna take the tube that is gonna be the blank, because we can subtract the blank with the fluorometer directly instead of doing it in Excel, for example. The blank is gonna be a tube from your matrix effect tubes that does not contain the OPA, or phthaldehyde. So the machine has set itself to 799, which is close enough to 800 that we asked. Then it's gonna ask if you want to read and subtract the blank, so you click yes. So this is tube 9 from the matrix effect. Like all the other tubes, you wipe them with a damp chem wipe to remove any salts on the outside of the glass. Put it in the cuvette holder, close it, and you press enter. It's gonna take a while, a few seconds to stabilize. And once it's stabilized, you just press 0. In that case, I had I didn't put any water in my tube, so that's why I had a value of close to 800, but normally you will get something between 0 and 30, or ish, maybe a little more sometimes when you haven't been using your tubes for a while. So now the machine is set properly for measurements, and you're gonna go and measure every single tube. Even though you've made your calibration with tube number 8 and used tube number 9 for the blank, you need to read them again. So from tube number 1 to the last tube of your samples, you're gonna read them, write their fluorescence value on a sheet of paper, and then put all the data afterwards in an Excel sheet. So put the tube in while it's stabilized. You take another tube, you clean it with the chem wipe, and switch once you've written the value of the previous tube. Now that you have read all your tubes, you can turn off the instrument, and don't forget to remove the last tube. Sometimes we do forget a tube inside the fluorometer. Remove it, put it back in the tray, and rinse everything with molecule water at least 3 times each, and leave some molecule water in the tubes for storage. So in this video, I was wearing gloves. Always wear gloves when dealing with ammonium. But in this case, I was wearing the wrong kind of gloves. They were nitrile gloves, and we do not work with these anymore because they contaminate with ammonium. Now we use vinyl gloves, or we could also use PE gloves. They would be acceptable.